All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 1 of A Surgeon and a SEAL. We're kind of starting this in response to the webinar Captain Chaby and I did for Stanford yesterday. It was called Ignite Vitality. It's a 1-hour webinar that we did for them. And we just didn't have enough time to do all the questions. So there was more than 50 or 60 questions that came in. And we're going to do a lightning round of as many of those questions as we can fit into about 30 minutes. So again, welcome to A Surgeon and a SEAL, and I'm going to jump right in and ask one of the questions that came in. I should introduce each of us real quickly. My name is Allan Mishra. I'm an orthopedic surgeon and founder of Dare to be Vital. Tom Chaby, go ahead. Give us a quick intro.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Allan. Tom Chaby, Captain Tom Chaby, retired Navy SEAL. I currently consult in leadership and performance optimization.
Excellent. All right. So that's kind of our brief intro. You can find more about Tom at tomchaby.com and more about me at daretobevital.com. But we're here to have a little fun and answer the questions. So this is kind of stump the chump for a surgeon and a SEAL. Okay. All right. With 1 million thoughts each moment, what action steps can I do or take to become a more disciplined thinker? Well, that's a tough one to start with, but with 1 million thoughts each moment, what action steps can I take to be a more disciplined thinker? So I'll let you start with that one if you like, or I can try to answer that one.
I'll leave that one to you, Allan.
Okay, so I think the key to becoming a more disciplined thinker is to just start, okay? So, you may have 1 million things rattling around in your mind, and you gotta push the pause button on all those little squirrels that are running around there and just say, listen, let's pick one of them, or pick 2 of them, or try to categorize those thoughts. Are these bad thoughts? Are these good thoughts? Is something neutral? What's amazing about us is that we have the ability to have 1 million thoughts. That can, however, be paralyzing. So again, I would try to start with two specific things. Categorize those thoughts as good, bad, or neutral. And then number 2, try to be proactive about what you want to think about. And, maybe put those bad thoughts in a corner, and then slowly try to think more about those good thoughts.
I love the term you use, disciplined thinker, disciplined mindset. And I use it all the time, and it's key. And for me to be a disciplined thinker and have a disciplined mindset, I said it yesterday and I'll reiterate it today. I shift away from focusing on those outcomes. When you have 1 million thoughts, each one of them probably has an outcome that you hope happens or you truly, truly want to happen. Those outcomes, you know what they are. You don't have to focus on those outcomes. They're clear. But what you need to focus on to achieve those outcomes is the process. Just get after it, like Allan said. Just get after it. Just a little bit of action, one step after another, day after day. Just string some thoughts together, string some actions from those thoughts together, and you'll get moving in the right direction. And you change that trajectory from maybe being flat or downward to an upward slope where it is just, as Allan and I like to say, we have a bias for action.
Have bias towards action or embracing action. So I say you can't be vital by being idle. So if your brain is running at 1 million RPMs in idle, try to put it in gear, but put it in gear moving in the right direction. So this is going to be a lightning round, or we're never going to finish them all. And this is kind of a related question. Can you each talk about the process you followed to find your peak purpose? Great questions. I mean, this was an awesome audience we had yesterday, and I'm sorry we didn't get to these. So again, can you each talk about the process you followed to find your peak purpose?
For me, it was very interesting. And I really don't think I had my peak purpose till later in life. And like I discussed yesterday, once again, having context, experiences, things to draw on to help me with that journey. Because it really is a journey to find your peak purpose. The first thing I did was I really, truly identified what I didn't want in my life. I didn't want to be in an office. I didn't want to go back to the Navy base when I retired from the military. And then I started looking at what are some of the things I want, generally speaking. Not what kind of job do I want, what kind of effort do I want to support. what do I want in my life? And for me, I wanted autonomy and relevance.
That's awesome. So I'll say the same thing. I didn't find my peak purpose until maybe a few years ago, but I've had a lot of purposes along the way. That's embedded in, this was another question of, can you have multiple purposes? So when I was probably between 18 and probably 30, I said, I want to be a doctor. I want to be a surgeon. I was very, very focused on my studies and my education and my training, and also became a husband and a father. So I think you can have multiple purposes over time. My process has been maybe a little bit different, and that is to see what I can do to make the most impact on myself, my community, and the world. So I'll say that again. That's something I've learned later, but I think if I want to try to identify my peak purpose, again, it's back to process, by the way. Am I doing something that's going to be the best I can be? Is it going to be really good for my family, my community, and ultimately my country and the world? All right, we're going to move on here. And I think this is an important one, which we didn't have a lot of time to discuss yesterday, but can you expand on spirituality? Is meditation or prayer or belief in something important? And I'm going to start with this one real quick and say absolutely. I say in the book or in the class that spirituality is one of the 4 pillars. To me, that is belief in God and being a Christian, but I think it's a little more broadly defined in believing in something bigger than yourself. Spirituality to me is believing in something bigger than yourself. If you're solely focused on yourself, you're never going to be your most vital version. So spirituality can be a variety of things to a lot of people, and I think we should be able to define that ourselves. But again, believing in something bigger than yourself and then serving people in that context is what I think is crucial.
Yeah, I'll just double down on what you said because I agree with everything 100%.
Okay.
For me, it's hope.
Yeah.
And
Hope and service. All right, tougher question. What tools can help if your job suddenly diverges from your purpose? What tools can help if your job suddenly diverges from your purpose? These aren't easy, by the way. I mean, there isn't a layup on this entire piece of paper. I mean, these are tough questions.
You know, for me, I'd say the first tool, and you may not look at this as a tool, but I do, is clear self-awareness. Self-awareness is everything. When you have it and you're true to your purpose and you understand what it is, decisions are much easier to make. Sometimes it's hard to stay true to that purpose when you're dealing with those nagging questions of putting shoes on your children's feet, milk on the kitchen table. But there's ways that you can keep moving the ball forward and stay congruent to your purpose. So for me, it's self-awareness and stay true to it to the best of my ability.
Yeah, I think this is a very tough one, but an important one to kind of be comfortable being uncomfortable. So if you have to, that's a skill, I think. So if your job suddenly becomes, is what I call sapping your bone marrow and is no longer providing you any sense of vitality, it may be time to change that. And so becoming uncomfortable with becoming comfortable with being uncomfortable is important because it's going to happen to all of us over and over again. And then one of the things I've found that's really kind of crazy is, and this goes back to Viktor Frankl's book and his discussion of meaning, is that we all still have a choice almost no matter what our circumstances to live in our head and try to understand how can we do something to make a difference even in our constrained world. So give yourself a little bit of a chance to think outside whatever's bugging you, and then practice understanding that feeling uncomfortable is going to happen to everybody, and that you can push that little pause button. I have that aphorism: silence that voice of judgment in your head that whatever your job is can't be better. Don't maybe quit your job right away, but start to think or plan to do something different, especially if it's on an everyday basis that it's not helping you. Here we go. This is a good one. Have you discovered there's a difference between wellness and vitality? Wellness and vitality. Any thoughts on that one, Tom?
Yeah, the first thing that comes to mind for me, wellness is more health related. while vitality truly incorporates the spirituality piece we were just talking about, and this really nebulous element dynamic that influences our lives if we let it. And when you're vital, it is unbelievable. It changes everything. It changes your health. It changes your relationships. It changes your performance, whether it be at work, on a battlefield, or on an athletic field. It's everything. So for me, it's about going deeper from the physical to the spiritual.
And that question for me is a layup, because that's what I think Dare to Be Vital is all about. Is my job as a surgeon and as a doctor is to treat you well. And I will always do my best to treat you well, but I can't give you, as I said yesterday, I can't give or grant you vitality. Vitality is something you earn by taking ownership over the choices you make in your life, the choices to work on your physical wellness, to work on your social, mental, and spiritual wellness. And I think if you're consistent about working, that's back to that process that you and I have been talking a lot about, Tom. I find that, wait for it, happiness is the byproduct of being consistent about working on your vitality. I'm just, my personal opinion here, the pursuit of happiness is a fool's folly. I find I'm happy when I am doing those things to help other people, that I'm working on my physical, mental, and social wellness. And then all of a sudden, wow, I'm spending time with a friend and doing something important for somebody else. I'm happy. If I say I just want to pursue happy, sometimes I think maybe this is my bias. It's just I want to have pleasure all the time, or I want to avoid pain all the time. And I just don't think it's possible to avoid pain or to have pleasure all the time. And again, I'm not a philosopher, I'm a surgeon. So that's just my opinion. This is an interesting sort of question that came in specifically for you. And that is, what do you think of Stoicism in the context of being a Navy SEAL or being in the military? That was for Captain Tom Chaby, not me. So I have to give that one to you.
That has to be one of my friends who asked that question. That's all. I am a disciple of Stoic philosophy. I love it.
Okay.
And I truly believe in all the tenets. It's just a great way. And if you're not familiar with Stoic philosophy, I recommend go out and explore it a little bit, because it's interesting and it can be a powerful contribution to your wellness and to your vitality if you allow it, because it really gives you clarity.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of not having expectations. I just don't. And maybe it bothers my wife sometimes, or my family, but I do everything. I stick to my process, and I try to truly live a life where I'm looking at things through a lens that's not rose-colored. It's not fog. It is as clear as possible. And for me, Stoic philosophy really, truly helps me.
So this one I'd like to spend a little bit of time on, Tom, this next one here. We didn't touch on it too much yesterday, but teenagers and college-age students feel a lot of pressure to find their purpose, and then they feel bad if they don't have one. So do you and or I have any suggestions about sort of, let's call it the 18 to 24-year-olds or 16 to 24-year-olds who either may be listening to this or may be forced to listen to this by their parents?
You know, my first piece of advice is, and this is your wheelhouse. You know, you talked about your lovely daughter yesterday and what you've been working with her, or maybe I should rephrase that, what she's been working with us on. And,
she's her own sentient being. She's going to run the world one of these days.
Yeah,
so
she's a high achiever. And but the reality is, you know, it's a tough time. It's a tough time in your life. And I remember back then, and I listened to the things your daughter's contemplating, and other 16 to 24-year-olds, particularly with the football players at Michigan that I work with. And it's interesting. But for me, I'm going to just stick with this. Be clear. Be congruent. Be simple. Communication is everything in regards to this journey you may be on together with them, or encouraging them on. I would also encourage you, use multiple modalities. Don't just talk at somebody. Maybe send them a note, a text. Do it in different ways, and it may definitely resonate in different ways. So I'm going to pass the ball over to you.
Just a couple quick suggestions is number one is to spend some time doing it. It's hard work to figure out what your purpose is. It just doesn't come out of the blue or out of the sky, and it can change over time. So you don't need to identify your peak purpose at 16 or 18 or 24 or 40 or 60 or 80. You can have a series of peak purposes over your life. I would absolutely, however, be an essentialist. This is one thing I wish I could talk to my previous self or younger self and say, listen, you can do anything, but you cannot do everything. Now that's stolen from Essentialism, which is a great book that everybody should read. But if you selectively prioritize your things to do, let's say you got a top 10 list, lop off the bottom 7, then you got 3 left. Now you've got some choices to make. How are you going to spend your most precious non-renewable resource? All right, that's time. So we're all granted the same 24 hours, 365 days. Your time, I think, is like in the poker game of life, chips. So I like to play poker, and I think you need to have a reason to commit your chips to the pot. Your chips are your time. So if you're going to commit your chips as a young person to a game or a school or a pursuit, make sure you're doing that for the right reason. And also understand when you pursue something else, you are absolutely neglecting something else on the other side of that equation of, oh, I can't do that, so I'm going to do this. So it's okay. And I would also, and I tried to teach myself and my daughter and the students who are in my classes how to say no. Okay. That is something that we feel bad about doing, but being selective, spending time wrestling with your purpose, and over time it'll get easier to figure out, does that really be meaningful for myself? So those are the suggestions that I give my students and I give myself. Okay, let's go into a couple quick ones that are crucial that we didn't cover. How does one exercise relentlessly apply to somebody who's physically disabled? Any suggestions for that? I know you've seen people who've come back from in theater and had devastating injuries, but are still very vital people. Are there things that people can try to do if they're faced with a challenge?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I've been blessed. I have had 10 orthopedic procedures. I have a fake hip. Most of my joints have been hammered in one way or another, but my physical therapists have been phenomenal. And I would encourage you, go to the experts. They have tools. You can get in the water. They have devices, equipment, technology that can assist you, partially assist you, and get you on a trajectory from where you may be going downward. I'm going to keep coming back to this because it's all about trying to improve. Even as we get older and less capable, there are so many things we can do and just keep it going. And go to the pros. They'll have great advice for you.
I think that's an excellent tip, is that there's a lot of resources for people. And that could just be, this is actually in my wheelhouse too, people who have either knee arthritis or hip arthritis. I have some significant degenerative back disease. So, there's a lot of options. So talk to your doctor, talk to your physical therapist. Lots of opportunities online in terms of exercise videos. I would say, don't use it as an excuse. Find an opportunity to exercise as much as you can in the context of what you can do. Quick one here. Somebody asked, do you want to keep your phone out of your bedroom if you're a teenager? I'm going to say that applies not only to the teenager, but to all of us. So getting your phone out of your bedroom is crucial. Putting yourself on a technology curfew is also crucial for your time, or for your sleep. Okay. We have time for about another 10 minutes of questions. And I want to lean into a little bit more of what maybe you do right now for sleep. I think I had my presentation, but I didn't get a chance to ask, what does Captain Tom Chaby do to optimize sleep? And they also wanted to know what your suggestions were.
Yeah, I mentioned it yesterday with my Sam Elliott quote. And we in the SEAL community really used to look at sleep as a luxury versus a requirement. I loved your quote on the performance enhancement drug. Sleep hygiene, it's critical. But the real two keys are, one, make the choice to prioritize it.
Yeah.
Make the choice. And I'm blessed with a wonderful wife who, she values sleep more than I do.
Oh, good.
And she's a hardliner. And she gets my two young boys to sleep. They're still sleeping solid 10, 11 hours a night. It's phenomenal. And it's a drug. It's a great drug. And I'm addicted to it.
So I think you said something that's kind of important, because the community you embed yourself in with regard to sleep is crucial. So when I did kind of a similar thing that you did for training, and for, I was the world's, I didn't sleep very much for more than probably 20 years. And then about 4 years ago, I called it sleep as a weapon. And sleep became a priority. It became a superpower. And, so I think getting yourself in a routine, it's maybe similar to the people who are around you. If you're not around people who prioritize or appreciate sleep, it's more difficult. Now, you can also try to get people, if you understand that value, and lead other people in that direction, because I don't think there's any more important physical vitality parameter than sleep. Okay, let's move on here. What would you say to somebody who's lost their purpose? How do they get it back? And I think this is a good one for us to talk about for a few minutes, because we didn't talk about a lot yesterday, but there's people out there who don't feel like they're looking for something to grab onto, or they may have been on a correct pathway or an ascending pathway, and it's been yanked away from them by losing their job, or by having a difficult situation that's not necessarily their fault.
Yeah, that's tough. And you talk about it yesterday, despair, and the things that accompany despair are what nobody wants. We want to help people that are experiencing despair. I would say this. I don't have all the answers, but I know if you're going in the wrong direction, disrupt your life. Disrupt it in some form or fashion. Maybe the people you're with, maybe where you're living, maybe what your job is, what you're focusing on. Disrupt it and try to shake it up in a positive way. Don't do something negative disruptively, but look to change the stimulus coming into your world. Look to be around some new people. Look to just do something. Get into botany or something. Just something that is just so. I love watching TED Talks. I try to watch one a week minimum. Yep. And I'll tell you, every time I watch a TED Talk, I'm like, man, there are a lot of intelligent people in this world. And I encourage you, get in that habit, because it is so motivating.
Yes, I will echo what you just said with two specific recommendations. One is, if you are off track, try something new. Go take a guitar lesson, go take a painting class. And the second one, which is, again, it should be the first one, is go serve somebody, because everybody can serve somebody in some way. I've been staggered by how valuable that is for me personally. It's a lesson that I have to learn and relearn. But anytime I offer my time, talent, or treasure in ways, especially in ways sometimes when I'm uncomfortable, like, oh, I shouldn't go into that community, or I shouldn't be in that situation, I have been rewarded beyond belief. And it is especially valuable if you are in despair. You might actually find somebody who has a different form of despair that you can help, and then they can help you. So that's crucial. Well, why don't we finish up here in the next few minutes on something that's very difficult to do, but important. And one of them is maybe to find like-minded people with a common purpose, which I'm not sure I understand how to do that anymore. Our country is divided, but I also think that there's opportunities for us to come together. But I'm wondering if you had any thoughts about, how can we find like-minded people with a common purpose to enhance our vitality?
Wow.
I told you these were tough. Like they again, there was no layup here that just said, you know, hey, thank you very much, you're great. You know, you drop the mic, we're done. It was more of a, you know, I think I learned, by the way, thank you for anybody who's watching or listening. This set of questions just opened up a brand new series of things that I need to investigate. So I'm not sure I have all the answers. Captain Chaby and I are trying to understand it, and maybe we can pocket veto that one and get back to you, because I don't have a great answer for that one. I really don't. I'm hoping that we can find some common ground that we can agree that is important to work on and try to love and serve each other more.
I would encourage you to listen, really listen, actively listen. I'm embarrassed when I think back to my earlier days as a leader, and I was not a very good listener. The better I listen, the better I can connect with people with different views, with different opinions. And when I'm able to do that, my life is immediately richer. If I'm in an organization trying to achieve something, our level of success goes up. The respect that people, the teammates I'm working with feel goes through the roof. So I would just listen like you've never listened before. It's such a good skill.
Excellent advice. All right, I'm going to finish with one of my favorite ones, but still not an easy one. How can you throw some more light on discovering your calling or peak purpose? Okay, so a lot of the questions we received revolve around that, and you know, I talked a little bit about the ladder of purpose, and I do think my whole reason for doing this, whether it's a webinar or anything with Dare to Be Vital, is I think our each one of us individually, our communities, and the world will be better if we each find and execute and live our peak purpose, because there's so much all of us can give to each other in the world. So I can't, again, I'm not sure I know how to do it perfectly. I just know that the outcome of each of us living what we're supposed to be doing to the best of our ability will help each of us individually, but more importantly, will help all of us collectively.
Yeah, for me, I'm going to encourage the listeners out there, volunteer for different things. Maybe once a month, commit to volunteering to a different effort. And I'm not suggesting your purpose is definitely going to be benevolently related, but it will open the lens of your perception to so many new and interesting things. And like I said before, listen, watch, read, have conversations with people you never even thought you would sit down and chat with, and just enjoy the experience. And through that, I sense the journey of self-discovery and peak purpose discovery will really change significantly in a positive way for you.
Awesome. I'm going to leave it at that. I did my best to answer everybody's questions. Thank you so much for sending them in. It was an honor to be part of that webinar. Thank you, Captain Chaby. You can learn more about Captain Chaby at tomchaby.com, and you can learn more about what I'm doing with Vitality at daretobevital.com. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sending in your questions. And this will be the finish of episode 1 of A Surgeon and a SEAL. Thank you so much, Tom. Bye now.
Thanks, Allan.
Let me see. I'm going to